Hello there. It's been a while, to be frank. I'm very happy to receive John Arundel. So, John, a friend of the podcast, I would say that you are now number one returning guest so far. So,
Wow.
thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me back.
I think it will be a nice one. So I know that you are working on a new version of one of your books. So if you want to start with that, I mean we had some discussion about books and AI in the past weeks and whatnot. So I mean it's always interesting to hear uh, what you have to say about that.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, as you'd expect from the fact that I'm all over the media, I've got a new book to promote. So, always relentless in self-promotion. But you have to be, don't you? No one else is going to promote me. So here I am. And thanks very much for facilitating that. So, yeah, some of your listeners might have read a book that I wrote called For the Love of Go. I know you have.
Yep.
And I wrote that several years ago. It was the first Go book that I wrote and self-published. And it was pretty bad. Like, the first time we ever go at anything, it's probably not as good as it could be. And this was definitely true of that. It was all right, but when I revisited it and thought, I'd give it a little bit of a polish and an update, I started reading through it thinking, well, this is not great. For a start, I started off trying to introduce people to TDD, or guided by tests, which is how I like to phrase it. So start off by having them write a test in Go before they've even written anything in Go, which I think on reflection was probably a mistake. Forgivable mistake maybe, but still didn't work that well because tests in Go are sort of slightly complicated, aren't they? I mean, you've got to write a function and it's got to be in a package and it has to take the magical testing T parameter and all sorts of things. So that's a bit too much to load onto people on page one, don't you think?
Right.
So, and also I chose a really bad example, which was the calculator app. So this is the example you see everywhere for TDD, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
so that's bad. That's bad already because people have already seen it, so it's boring. Plus, it's awful because it introduces you to math and floating point. Can you think of anything worse for beginning programmers? Like, yeah, let's grapple with floating point. Why not? That'll be straightforward. Nothing complicated about that. So I thought I need to chop out all of that stuff. And I thought where it actually started to get good was a little way into the book, where it starts talking about Happy Fun Books, my imaginary bookstore, where we need to keep track of all the interesting books that we sell, and we need to have a catalogue, and we need to be able to sell them and edit the book details and so forth. This is a nice little thing to have write an app about in Go. So this is good. Let's lean into that. But I need to introduce a few things before we can even do that, right? Before you can even say, here's a book catalogue or something. It's like, we actually need to talk about what is even a function, or what is even a package, right?
Mm-hmm.
I realized I thought I was starting right at the beginning, but it turns out I needed to start way before that, actually. I'm sure you found the same thing, that when you try to teach something to someone, you realize there's a whole bunch of implicit knowledge that we have that we just don't even know we have, right?
Yeah, that's a tough one. For me, I chose to specifically says that if you're going to read my book, and it was like 6-7 years ago, if you're going to read this book, ensure that you know what the typical web response and request is. So at least I've put the bar there. So if the reader never built a website or a web application in their life, the book is just not for them. So because for me, it was difficult to exactly like you said, how can you know where to put that bar? Because there will always be people that needs to to start before that bar, or if I can say
Right.
that. Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense, because every book has to start somewhere. And if you want to write an advanced book, you can't really start by teaching people, you can't start by teaching someone English, for example. You've got to sort of, there have to be some prerequisites. But I thought, let's see how much we can do to really tackle people who are totally new to programming. And the one complaint everybody has about programming books is that they just assume too much prior knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, let's try not to do that. I've got lots of experience of teaching people programming and Go, and I know the sort of things that they tend not to be familiar with. So I thought, let's talk about those. Let's say what even is a function and why would you have one? What does it look like? What does it mean to call a function? What is data? What is a data type? What are values?
Yeah.
This be very, very basic things for some people listening, but for other people listening, they might be like, yeah, what is data? People keep saying that word, but I have no idea what they mean. I really appreciate someone actually kindly and gently explaining it without patronizing me. That's what I've tried to do. But a funny thing happened writing this book, and I realized, this is turning into a whole new book. This is not an update to For the Love of Go now. This is something else. And as I was writing it, I'm writing the book app, and I say, let's be able to edit things like the number of copies. Let's be able to list all the books. Let's look up a particular book by ID. Oh, we need to introduce the idea of IDs.
Yeah.
What are IDs and why do you need them? This kind of thing. So what I found was really nice is that all of these useful concepts just fall out naturally from trying to write some real program. You know how it is when people try to write explanatory books. They have a big list of concepts that they want to get across. I want to talk about Go routines. I want to talk about strings.
Yeah.
And they think, what program could I make up that makes you need to use that thing so that we can talk about it? And this is really difficult, isn't it? Choosing good examples is just the hardest thing. I felt really bad for my friend John Bodner when he was writing Learning Go, and I helped him out a bit with some proofreading, and he was saying that, you've got to mention everything that's in Go. That's what the book's about.
Yeah.
And that's actually a lot. Go is a pretty small language, relatively speaking, but relatively is doing a lot of work there. Still a lot to talk about, and he has to think of an example for every single thing you can imagine in the Go spec. That's tough.
Yeah.
I made my life easy. I just said, let's just have one program. And, whatever comes up in that program, fine, we'll talk about it. But we won't ham-handedly introduce stuff just so that we can talk about that concept. Because if you don't need it in real programs, who cares, right?
Yeah.
No point talking about it just because it exists.
That's interesting. I mean, and also, well, I don't know, but let's speculate a little bit here. There might be more programmers that are starting up that were not by trade, or that just because they now can build some things with the AI and whatnot. So there might be a lot of people that need to understand the basics these days. I'm talking about maybe power user here in companies that now can probably are able to build internal tools in their own company. So I mean, this is a lot of people we are talking about.
Absolutely right. So I'm certainly not saying you shouldn't learn about things. I'm just saying it actually turns out to be really helpful if they just kind of emerge organically while you're trying to solve some user problem. Thinking about it from that direction, thinking, we want to write a program that actually does something in the real world. Mm-hmm. If that means we need to learn about computer science concepts, great. But that's not necessarily why we're here. We just want to get something done. Go is very pragmatic in that way, isn't it? So I think it fits. But I started to get myself into deeper water. I realized things are getting a bit difficult here because I kind of want to make the book catalogue. I want to write methods on the catalogue, so therefore now that needs to become an object, so we need to talk about that. Now I need pointer methods. So, whoa, record scratch. We need to talk about pointers. Okay, deep breath. So here we go. So I tackle this. I find this is useful because, of course, people need to know about pointers.
Right.
So it's good that they came up. And then I thought, gosh, I want to do a little API server so that people can request book information over HTTP and things like this. So now, of course, we're dealing with concurrency because servers are concurrent. Mm. They just are. So we need to talk about concurrency. And I thought, gosh, we have we have data races here because we have HTTP clients making multiple requests concurrently, altering this book catalog, and other people are requesting them. This is going to go wrong. So we need to say, what is a data race? We need to explain what is a mutex and how would you use a mutex to prevent this sort of stuff. And I thought, is this getting too computer sciencey? Because this is a beginner's book. And I'm talking about all this distributed system stuff and getting a bit worried. But I thought, no, it's emerging naturally. Let's just cling on to that idea. Like, we're not introducing these for the fun of talking about them, although it is fun. But if people write Go programs, they're probably going to write servers and clients, aren't they? And so they're going to deal with concurrency, and so they have data races. What do you think? Should we just not mention this stuff? Or, I think we have to talk about it, right?
Yeah, I believe so. At some point, they will encounter that for sure. My friend was showing me a C program the other day. Speaking of pointer, Go has made them so, how can I say that, approachable, if I can say that, compared to a little bit of C I was looking at. But even though C was looking pretty straightforward, I hadn't seen C in a long time. It was an app to play music on a board. So he wants to build himself an MP3 player, if you will, but for not for MP3, but whatever. I mean, and you have to read, you have to decode the sample and play the sample and things like that. The sound sample. There's a lot of pointer involved, and I was thinking to myself, wow, Go really made that very simple.
Yeah, and it's a sort of a gateway drug into all these important concepts, isn't it? Because, stuff lives in memory. You can't avoid that. So if you have memory addresses equals pointers. Now you have problems with pointers.
Yeah.
So you need, you can't understand a pointer if you don't know what memory is, and if you can't understand what memory is unless you know something about how computers work. That's okay. I love learning about that stuff. I'm sure all your listeners do too. It is fun and important to know, and it's the type of stuff that people generally don't learn in any formal way, is it? They just kind of pick up what they need to know on the street or behind the bike sheds.
Right.
Which is fine, but I thought it's nice to actually be able to talk about it and say, let's just surface what this stuff is actually about. So I really enjoyed writing that part. And I found by the time I sort of got to the natural end of the book, we've basically entered the exciting, dangerous world of distributed systems where nothing works properly, everything can go wrong. We have data races everywhere. We need to understand about why concurrent programs go wrong, which they do all the time, and all that stuff. So, this book sort of expanded in both directions. It went added a whole load of stuff to the beginning to explain lots of fundamental things which actually I'd skipped over before. And then it ended up taking me much deeper into the world of CS concepts and modern distributed systems and things than I expected it to. So that was weird. That's why I ended up calling it The Deeper Love of Go. So I just thought by the time you get to the end of this, actually, you've gone way beyond what most introductory programming books teach you about.
Nice. Yeah, that seems to be pretty complete. I mean, well, this distributed system is kind of a beast in itself. So I'm surprised that you were able to, to pack that into the book itself. It's pretty good.
Yeah, well, I don't know a huge amount about it myself, but I mean, this is one of the things about writing, isn't it? It sort of forces you to go and read up on it, thinking, I don't want to make an idiot of myself here. You can judge whether or not I've succeeded.
Yeah, I'm sure it's good. I mean, you have always such a good review everywhere.
Well, I did hear one lovely thing which someone said, which was that they were new to programming and they bought about 10 or a dozen introductory programming books and got stuck on all of them a few pages in. And when they read my book, they said, actually, it unlocked something. I actually thought, wow, I'm understanding this. This is great. So they felt, energized and empowered and will now go and learn loads of stuff themselves, which is great.
Yeah.
Really pleased to hear that.
Yeah, I think it's your tone and the way that you explain things. You know, it's the pace. If I can say, I don't know if we can say pace when we are reading, but yeah, I think for me when I read a couple of your things, I said, well, this is just easily understandable. What happened to your Rust? Side quests. I don't know, but where are you with that?
Has the side quest taken over and become the main quest? I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
But this is a good point, because, you know, if I am good at teaching things like Go, it's because I know exactly what it's like to feel stuck, to feel dumb because you're not managing to understand something somehow, and you're just sitting there feeling bad, thinking, is it just me? Am I uniquely dumb? I'm the only person in the world who doesn't get this, right? Everybody else just seems so happy about it. And so I know exactly what that feels like, and I think that sort of makes me know what to say, or how not to, you know, it's no good just saying to people, just think a bit harder. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
You have to just patiently and gently find different ways to explain it, different analogies, different pictures, different ideas. Sooner or later, you'll find the thing that unlocks it for them. And then, of course, everything's very trivial. Once you understand it, it's like, yeah, of course, that's obvious. How could you not know that? So I recently had that experience with Rust. So definitely feeling very dumb. I'm sure literally everybody in the entire world that's tried to learn Rust has felt this at some point.
Yeah.
If not every point. Because Rust is a lot, as we've said previously. But, you know, you don't have to be a genius to understand it any more than you do with Go or anything else. Just patience and not expecting yourself to be brilliant right away, right?
Yeah.
Everything takes time.
Yes, sure. But you also need to have the proper the proper use case for the language. That's to me, and maybe it's my excuse. But whenever I start doing Rust, I just, it's just not what it's not the type of program that I need to build at the moment.
Yeah.
So I would love to. System programming is pretty interesting to me. But yeah, you know, the amount of energy that you need to invest, and you still need to have some money at some point. So you need to work as well.
You're totally right.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But Go, I mean, you mentioned something. So you mentioned is Go is over. So that's I thought you were mentioning that because of your Rust experience now. I'm curious to hear what, you know, what is there exactly in that piece.
Yeah, breaking news, people. Go is over. You heard it here first. No, you know, I think we said last time, didn't we, that a few years ago I noticed that, you know, sales of my Go books are falling off slightly. New inquiries about Go mentoring starting to diminish a little bit. Still pretty strong, but, you know, not as high as it had been a couple of years ago. And I thought, gosh, you know, this is silly of me, because I've been through this cycle so many times with different tech that, you know, things just go through a life cycle, don't they? Something is new, and then it's exciting and cool, and then it's stable and mature, and then it's boring and old-fashioned, and then it's just something that keeps expensive consultants in business, and then at some point it's kind of over because people just stop thinking about it. And practically everything I've ever learned has been through that cycle and has now disappeared. So, of course, for stuff that you're doing just for fun or recreationally, it really doesn't matter. Even if you're the only person in the world using that language or whatever, totally fine. But if it's something that you're trying to make a business out of and make a career out of, you do need to kind of pay attention to this stuff, don't you? I think you need to sort of keep one eye open, just thinking, I'm riding the wave right now and everything's great. But what happens when this is over? What's my next thing? You need to kind of start ramping up a little bit before that, because what you don't want to do is have the wave recede and leave you lying on the beach thinking, I've got nothing.
Yeah.
You know, should I start with Rust? Okay, now I need several years to get good at Rust. So that's, you know. So I thought maybe this will be the next big thing. Let's have a look into it. So I start learning Rust. Several years later, here I am, still a beginner. And I suspect we all are on some level, but that's okay. And in fact, I was thinking at the time, you know, is this the sign that interest in Go is declining? And maybe I'm not seeing quite so many articles on Hacker News or on Reddit and places like this. Perhaps it's not got as much mind share as it used to have. But then it kind of bounced back a little bit. Do you think? What have you seen?
Yes. Yeah, personally, I've seen a little bit of spike lately. Let's say in the last six months, maybe. I don't know.
Do you think it's people trying Rust and think, oh, this is awful, let's go back to Go?
No, I don't think so. I think it's mostly .NET people, JavaScript people, so people that want to probably get something a little bit more stable and calm. This is what I'm reading, and I was not seeing that much before, but yeah, now I don't know. It seems like and there's this surge of AI tool that appears. I don't know if you saw, but on the Go Reddit, they had to create this sticky thread to prevent people from flooding the homepage and whatnot with small CLI that, oh look, I built CLI to do X, but in fact they were just they were just built from the AI, and I know because I was starting to comment on those at first because I like to be active on Reddit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you don't have any tests, and you the code is X, Y, and Z, and the person just deleted their post and they reposted 5 minutes after, and a couple of days after, I've seen someone replying on a thread that they said something like, well, I would comment, but I comment on your other post that you just deleted. So I was like, wow, there's a problem. So the Reddit. The people that manage the Go Reddit, they saw that and they created that. So was that the spike that I was seeing? Was that just because now people are creating everything easily with vibe coding and the AI in general? Because I've tested that myself, because I was starting to, I will be frank, I was starting to fear a little bit. You see the phrase, well, if you don't embark into the train, well, you might have difficulties later and things like that. But so I tried it myself, and it's true that you can now build things. So was that the spike that I've seen? It's just some AI that was creating some CLI, because it's pretty nice to create CLI in Go, because you can deploy them in all sorts of OS and things like that by default.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I'm not sure I'm able to answer your question. I thought I've seen some spike, but I'm not sure it's legitimate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. I think that's part of it. Certainly, AI means there's a I mean, anybody could learn to program, but in practice, everybody does not. There's some barrier that not everybody can get over just to taking your first steps, right? Just writing your first hello world, or even installing Go or something. And I think AI is getting a lot of people over that barrier. It's making it way easier for them to just build something and post it to Reddit. Don't know why people feel they want to do that, but they do. And this is causing a problem for Reddit moderators and a few other people. I mean, maybe you and me too. I mean, you're a wonderful educator, as people who have your Go course will know. And it's great that you take the time to help people out and give code review and feedback and things on social media. But it must be a bit annoying for you when you realize you're actually helping Claude.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he doesn't need anyone's help, right?
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit more than just jumping. It's how can I say that? So there's people that are now creating project and product that probably should not. So now it's kind of, instead of having one or two really decent choice, you have 30, but 22 of them will close in the next 2 weeks. So it's not just small CLI that are posted on Reddit. Yeah, this is also why I'm not really going to social media anymore, and it's even making me asking about my consulting. The mediocrity now is accepted everywhere, and I have so much difficulties with that. AI.
Don't you think if there's more bad software, people will need consultants more? I mean, I hope so.
Well, the thing that I've seen so far is that the bar to accept a deliverable is very low, and the quicker you can do that, and you can do that with AI, that's not a problem. It just adds to work. But when I have tested that, so I've tested Cloud Code, which is a terminal-based thing that you basically dress out your problem and it goes. It's an agentic thing, so it's a little bit like Cursor and the other one that GitHub bot or Microsoft bot. I
wish they hadn't chosen the name agents. I mean, that just makes me think of the Matrix, because they're the bad guys, aren't they?
Well, I cannot use that, and this is where I explain my mediocrity word that I use. So it I'm sorry, but it's not good code, and I would not want to be in a team that produce that kind of code. I don't want to maintain code that the AI generates, because it mostly not good. And I understand, and I'm coming from a person or in an industry that build software as a service, and with the mantra or the mentality of, well, just build it and you will learn about your problem, you will learn about use case of your users, and once you start getting customers and whatnot. But I'm sorry, but what is currently being built with what we have at the moment is not something that I want to be part of. I have a huge difficulties embarking into this, to be frank. Mm-hmm. Even so that we are starting a service business. I'm taking a little bit step down from my main output as a business will not be code, but it will be straight up service built on top of a software that I'm building. But yeah, it really broke something for me.
That's a shame. Yeah, but I totally understand what you're saying, and I think maybe everybody's grappling with this, and it's just how you choose to decide you're going to feel about it. And I think I've decided that I'm going to feel optimistic, reasoning this is going to bring lots of people into the world of programming, which is a fun world. And that if that means more people learning, that maybe means more demand for my books or mentoring or whatever. But even if not, right, that's okay. I'll get by. I just think it's kind of nice if it's introducing a whole new generation of people to getting into this, which maybe they wouldn't have got into if it wasn't for this. But I don't know.
Well, I'm not against that. It's just that I would still like to know that we do enforce some kind of quality, because at the end of the day, the software that we are building sometimes is crucial or is important, and I would not want to see my my bank institution losing my money because the AI did something and things. And I know I'm exaggerating here. I'm just saying that we don't really know, and the way that the general reactions, or at least what I'm seeing, is a little bit scary to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that way too. I mean, we should certainly acknowledge, it's not like software used to be perfect when it was written by humans, and now it sucks because it's written by Claude. It probably sucks about the same amount. Software has always been terrible. It's just suddenly there's a great deal more of it, and it's far cheaper to crank it out, isn't it? Because, like to your point about reviewing code in teams, is bad software produced by AI any worse than bad software produced by humans? No, it's just much cheaper.
Well, it's much cheaper, but the amount of thing that the AI is outputting is overwhelming. So now you don't even want to do any kind of review, because instead of reflecting and thinking about the problem and things like that, now you are receiving like a gazillion of PRs, and you don't even. The agentic model says that, well, build an agent to now review the thing, and now build an agent that will act like the product manager and things. I'm just like, ugh, really? Is that where we are going with this?
Yeah, I mean, you could say it sort of depends which part of the job you enjoy. If you're a working software engineer right now, you're probably spending a lot more of your time reviewing and fixing and reprompting AIs to say, no, go back and have another try. I see what you're going for, but this program just doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
And maybe they would have done that previously with human juniors or something. And I think it's a lot easier to teach humans, isn't it? I mean, you keep telling Claude stuff and it just doesn't seem to get it somehow. Not sure what's wrong, but But if the part of the job that appealed to you was typing out functions and Go files and things, of course, now you won't get much of a chance to do that anymore, which is a shame. Your job is going to be more about reviewing and fixing and guiding other people's code and cudgeling it into some sort of decent architecture. Some people enjoy that.
Yeah, what I enjoy, speaking of junior, I was enjoying hiring a junior, training a person in 1, 2, 3 years, and seeing them explode and beat me at some point. That is fun. That was what I was liking. Now, if juniors are to start using the AI, they will learn. They will learn a couple of things here and there, but I don't know. The training data is not what we could say. Probably not the best thing to be trained on, and we see that a lot. I'm not complaining. I'm just a little bit concerned, and to be frank, I think there's a little bit way too much noise versus the signal at this point, and people, I can't wait for the return of the pendulum, or I don't know how to say that in English, but what you were saying, yeah. I'm a little bit I'm not negative or anything, but it's for me at this moment with the kind of discussion that I had with some clients. I've seen clients having all AI now to do sales rep. The sales department is really affected at the moment. And when I'm receiving a phone now, the first thing that I'm wondering is that, is that a human? Am I I don't know. It's not like I'm an old fart that don't like technology's enhancement or advancing, and things like that. But I'm just a little bit concerned that with the state of the world at the moment, I don't think that we are ready for AI.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about this stuff, really, isn't it, without sounding a bit like old man yells at cloud.
Yeah.
And I definitely relate to that. But I just think, it's as you say, everything goes in circles, or if it's a pendulum, it's a simple harmonic oscillator. So things, where we are now is a very weird and transitional time, and things are probably going to shake out differently to what we imagine. Who knows what the landscape will look like?
Yeah.
When it all lands right. It's a very strange time, but I sort of feel like, programming is not going to go away as an activity. People are going to continue to do it. Even if there was zero economic value to it, which I doubt, I think people would still do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
That's why I do it. So that's all right. And, it's all right to do things just for fun. And maybe in your day job, you'll be sort of architecting and prompting AIs to do the grunt work of actually building stuff. And then when you go home, you build old-fashioned, organic, handmade software from scratch, because you enjoy the craft. I think that's okay.
Oh yeah. Probably. I mean, it's it's for people that want to do that. Yeah, I guess it's fine.
And to return to our earlier point, I wonder if that software will be in Go or not, because one thing I've seen is that Go seems to be well suited to being generated by the yard by AIs, because it's a fairly syntactically simple language.
Yeah.
I don't know about this really. I mean, I've messed around with AI tools a little bit, or things like just refactor this Go test, or rewrite this Rust program, or explain this compiler error and fix it. Right, that kind of thing is helpful. Like when you run into something that you just don't even understand what the problem is. Sometimes the AI can explain it to you, and you're like, "Oh, I get it now." That is really helpful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. Yeah.
So I wonder if, and as you say, maybe this is partly to do with the fact that people are interested in Go again. But, so I suppose my question to myself was, have we reached peak Go? I'm not sure if that's true. Or even if it's a problem if we have, right? I mean, we know this is inevitable, and there's generally a long phase in the life cycle of any technology where it's just, people don't post on Hacker News about it anymore. Because it's done, it works, they know how to use it. No one has strong opinions about it anymore because they're just like, we're so done with talking about that. They want to argue about the next thing, of course, don't they?
Yeah, it's possible. Although there's not as much job offering that I was seeing previously. But again, I'm not so much on social networks anymore.
Yeah, and we'd have to recognize job offers are a really lagging indicator, aren't they? I mean, companies are pretty conservative. I don't know anyone hiring Zig developers right now, but I'm sure in a few years there will be if it reaches that stage that everybody thinks, wow, this is a real thing. It's not somebody's toy project anymore. This is actually happening. For a long time, Go was the new thing. People considered it as a proposal. It's like, I like your language. I see what you've tried to do. Here's 12 things you got wrong. Here's the 100 things you need to do to fix Go and make it a decent language that I would consider using. After a few years, those people just kind of found themselves by the side of the road. Everybody else had gone past on the Go bus, and they were looking after it thinking, hey, what about me?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, you said Go wasn't for you unless it had, X feature, so too bad. Sorry, you said you wouldn't use a language without generics, so bad luck. Then they sneakily added generics to Go. Those people must have been kicking themselves thinking, if only I'd stuck with it. There you go.
Yeah.
But surely, if a language is not in the growth phase anymore, that's sort of okay. It doesn't mean that if you've invested years and years of your life in getting really good at Go, that investment is suddenly worthless. I mean, it's very worthful, right?
Oh, it is. It is.
That has a lot of value and will for years and years to come. I mean, can you imagine a time when there will be no running Go code anywhere in the world? I mean, not in my lifetime. Very little of that left, perhaps, but you know what I mean. But certainly several decades we're talking here. Like Go is just so embedded in the fabric of the cloud and the internet and everything else. It's going to be with us, until long after the apocalypse, probably.
One
That's why. So don't panic on that score, I guess.
Oh
is my
no,
advice.
sure. One aspect I'm wondering though is that Go as this strong point for itself that you are building a maintainable program for a longer time, and now outputting code is getting so cheap that I'm wondering if if new greenfield projects will be built. Let's say a team decide to adopt the they will probably not write most of the code. So I mean, I'm wondering if the throwaway aspect of the code that is generated now is so high that it does not cost much to Monday you tell it to build you X, and if anything else, Wednesday if something is wrong, you just restart from scratch, and now you have a totally new project. So software maintenance will change, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. And I wonder whether, for myself, but being in a sort of a tiny cottage business, making homemade Go books and teaching Go over Zoom, selfishly perhaps, my concern was, am I going to be out of business? Like, is people just not going to be interested in learning Go anymore? And that doesn't seem to be true. I mean, I've got as much teaching work as I can reasonably fit in, and my books still sell. Obviously, that's why I'm fabulously wealthy and living in a solid gold house, like all self-published tech authors.
Oh yeah,
right?
True.
But my thinking was, I think I'd like a little escape hatch into the future. I like learning stuff anyway, as you know, and let's pick something that might be valuable in the future. Looks increasingly like it might be, so that's why I got into Rust, and I thought, this is great because, as we've discussed before, learning any other language can make you think differently about the way you write stuff in Go, which has got to be useful. And Rust particularly, I think, because it's so focused on things like safety and preventing correctness problems and dealing with issues in concurrent programs, which everybody has. So this is super useful, and I thought every other Go programmer will feel the same as me, right? All I have to do is introduce them to Rust, and they'll be like, yeah, this is great. I'm going to learn Rust alongside my Go knowledge, and between those two languages, I'm covering pretty much all the bases. Boy, was I wrong about that. No Go programmer wants to learn Rust, because the two classes of reactions I get are, one, I don't feel I really understand Go yet. Last thing I want to do is confuse myself by trying to learn another language at the same time, and I get that. Or people who feel they know Go really, really well, so they're just like, why do I need Rust then?
Right.
I can do everything with Go. So I'm thinking, I really can't win with these people. But, that's okay. I think some people feel they don't need to look at Rust, and it's totally fine. Go will be around forever, and that is true. Other people have tried to look at it or experimented a bit and thought, gosh, this is hard. I must have the wrong type of brain, or there's something defective about my brain that means I can't understand it. All these angle brackets making my eyes go funny. And I get that too. And I've certainly felt it. Yeah. But I think other people, there's a very small group of people who kind of have a working knowledge of both languages, and I think they're pretty well set up, because we know Rust is growing hugely and everybody's very excited about it, and you see it all over socials. That's not surprising because big money's coming into it. It's key to AWS and Microsoft and all of these big businesses putting Rust into everything. Rust has been in the Linux kernel for a long time. It's now a core part of Windows. It really is getting everywhere. And there are lots and lots of Rust jobs, all senior.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is what the survey says. I don't know how you get a job as a junior Rust programmer, but if you do, that's great. However, I think we have to recognize people have got limited size heads. I certainly do. There's only room for so much stuff in there.
Yeah.
My dad used to say he hated to learn somebody's phone number because if he did, he'd forgot another phone number that he knew. And I feel the same about tech stuff. You know, if I learned some fact about Rust, I probably forgot something important about Go. Never mind. I can always relearn it.
Well, yeah, and it boils down to what I was saying at first as well. If you don't have a use case for Rust, you can learn it, but if you do not practice or you don't write it at some point in a production environment and things like that. I mean, I think this might be where the gap is for Go engineers. So maybe they just don't see themselves transitioning to a Rust position or things like that. So I mean, Yeah,
that's totally fine. I mean, it's not going to be for everybody. I think it's a bit like, maybe it's a bit like sex or something. I mean, I can say that, right? This is a PG-rated podcast.
Oh yeah.
Some people are not interested in sex. Other people say, "Yeah, it's great. You should totally be doing it," and they're like, "It's not for me," and that's fine, right? I mean. We might feel they're missing out on something fun, but they're probably doing other fun stuff, that we don't know about, so that's okay. Same with Rust, not exactly like sex, so there are some important differences. But fun and interesting, but not for everybody. And I think if something like that is for you, you'll probably find your way to it at some point, right? Even if you're not into it right now, or it's not solving any problem you have or anything like that. Maybe you'll find your way to it by a different route in the future, or maybe you won't. It's all good.
Oh yeah, totally. So have you seen yourself going more toward Rust these days when you are needing to build something for yourself? Let's say, I don't know. Let's say you need a small tool internally or things like that. Let's pick one that I know that you built on top of my head is something I think to calculate your book sales or things like that. So have you written that in Go or it was in Rust?
Yes. So I did write a little sales analyzer just to see how few books I really sell, and the truth will horrify you. But I wrote that in Go and I thought, yeah, this is fine. And then when I was learning Rust, I thought, okay, this is a good real program that I actually need. It solves a real problem. Let's try doing this in Rust.
Okay.
See how painful the experience is. It was somewhat painful, like unnecessary dental surgery. But I learned a lot from it, obviously. And of course, that's why it's so useful. You can solve toy problems from tutorials all day long, and you don't really learn anything useful.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you try and write a real program, it all comes to pieces, doesn't it? You're like, I have no idea what to do. So it was good exercise for that reason. Unfortunately, the numbers came out as low from the Rust program as they did from the Go program. Can't blame Rust for that. But yeah, for new programs that I'm writing now, I'm mostly writing them in Rust just because it's new to me,
Yeah.
And it's fun, and I need to do some serious learning as well, so that helps. But I most of my teaching work is Go, and so I'm always working on projects with students and, helping write code with them and reviewing code and fixing code and tests and things. And that's still super fun. I really enjoy that. So I think I get my Go fix,
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty great. I'm more like interested in I've been following Rocklang for a long time. Richard Feldman, which was using Elm. I'm more in that vein myself. Even though Rust seems to be pretty nice in terms of functional programming and things like that. With like I was saying earlier, with the kind of work that I do, which is mostly always involving a web server and a browser, which is sad to be frank. At the end of the day, I would really enjoy myself doing other kind of program at some point. I think I've reached the right, or I've earned the right to try and do something else. But I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, almost all software is boring line of business applications, isn't it? CRUD apps,
yeah,
CRMs and things. But that's okay. There's always interesting problems to solve within those because every business is uniquely dysfunctional, and so its software needs to match.
Yeah, but I'm more complaining about having a browser and a web server. That is
Oh,
mostly,
browsers are the worst.
yeah. So that's mostly what I'm talking about. I would love to go more low level and things like that. It's pretty difficult, to be frank, when you have, like, I don't know, 25 years of web back end and front end experience. You cannot call yourself and say, oh, you know what, I will build the next driver in the Linux kernel, no problem. Give me that.
Yeah.
I cannot do that. So
No, but I mean, I'm always recommending to students, including myself, that to sort of try and write some kind of program that you never wrote before.
mm-hmm.
If you never wrote a game, try doing that. If you never did some kind of concurrent server, write that. Or if you didn't do something in a functional style, try something like that. Just to give yourself a new challenge. And that certainly is powerful. But from a business's point of view, we've got to think about innovation tokens, right? This is the thing. The useful way of thinking about your tech stack, isn't it? To say, we need to mitigate risk a little bit. Like we can try some new things, but for the bulk of what we're doing, we probably have to go with stuff that's pretty well proven and everybody else is using it. And, nobody's going to get fired for choosing Go at this point, which makes perfect sense. And probably not Rust either. But if you said, yeah, I want to do this in Elm or Elixir or something, or Zig maybe, managers might think twice about that.
For sure.
Fair enough.
I'm lucky enough to not be part of those organizations. So I mean, when I do a technical choice, it's mostly only for me or very small client of mine. So I mean, but it might also explain a little bit. Is Go is over? Maybe the fact that it's so niche in the the backend server, the cloud computing and things like that.
It's a big niche.
Well, yeah, I know, but companies that had to adopt it probably adopted it yet already.
Yeah.
So that might explain a little bit why we are not seeing most new thing, because at the end of the day, most program is already built, if I can say that. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, it's like any software. How often have you looked at some dependency that you were thinking about using and you look at the GitHub and you say, oh, there's been no commits on this for 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean it's abandoned? Should I stay away from this because it's just not going to get any maintenance anymore? Or is it just maybe that it's done? Maybe it's finished. It works. There are no commits needed. If you see 20 commits every day, that probably means it's either changing very rapidly, too rapidly for you to rely on it, or there are tons and tons of bugs that need fixing for some reason. So it's not clear cut, is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why people have difficulties accepting that a project or library is done and it's safe, it's solid, and there will only be security patches from now on. I'm totally good with that. By the way, yeah.
That's Go, isn't it? Safe and solid.
Yeah.
And that's why you don't see people writing excited posts anymore on social media saying, hey, we rewrote our app in Go.
No.
Because to your point, they've already done it a long time ago and either moved on to something else or they're perfectly happy with Go. Either way, they're not going to blog about it. That's okay. And so we should be careful about this, shouldn't we? The fact that we're not constantly hearing stuff about Go in the blogosphere doesn't mean that Go is declining or it's not a good choice or anything like that. Probably means the opposite, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, at some point, Go really will be over, and it'll be like, you'd be better advised to put your time into learning something else. But that's certainly not true today.
When they launch,
gosh, I hope not, because I just published a new book, right? I desperately need people to still need to buy this.
Yeah, totally. When they launch 2.0, I think it will be the end.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because we know there's not going to be a Go 2. And they've explicitly said that, and I don't think they've been very careful not to make the mistake that a bunch of other languages made. which was when I used to work for a computer company, and they never talked about their upcoming product publicly, which I thought was weird because that's what we were all working on. It's exciting. People want to know. And they said, look, it's very obvious. If you announce that you're launching a new computer next summer, who's going to buy the current one? Nobody.
Yeah.
So I thought, gosh, that makes sense. And it's the same with Go. If they said we're going to do a Go 2 at some point, everybody would be like, oh, well, we'll just wait for that. And, of course, that then opens the floodgates for everybody to say, now I can get in that little change that I wanted. And, of course, there are 100 million of those little changes, and we'd end up with something which is nothing like Go. That's perfectly all right, but there will be some language in the future informed by what everybody's learned from doing Go. It just won't be anything like Go.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, because I think it is done. I think the language is finished, and I think it's really great. Not perfect, but the desperately complicated and interlocking set of trade-offs that they've made over the years, I think is sort of quite close to optimal. How do you feel?
Oh yeah, totally. I've done some Python recently. I've done other languages, and I'm always like, oh gosh, this is so simple in Go. Oh, this is so quicker in Go. Everything is good enough to me, and I can rely and trust the language totally. So that is really what I like about Go.
Yeah, it's just like a piece of software. If you keep hacking on it and trying to polish and improve it, there comes a point where actually you just find you're making it slightly worse. Yeah. So I think Go has probably got to that point. They introduced generics, which is nice. I think we probably could have lived without it. I certainly could. Iterators is cool. Again, I could live without it.
Yeah.
But it's a nice thing to have, and they've been really clever and disciplined about the way they introduce these things without breaking everybody's existing programs, which they'd be very angry about. Yeah. And it's sort of in the spirit of the language. Very simple on the surface, very minimal stuff to learn, strange and complicated interactions under the surface, but that's just how it goes. I think maybe the fact that some people feel a bit frustrated about Go is partly due to the fact that if that's the only language they know, they're stuck with it, right? It's like marrying someone. You might like all sorts of things about them, but there might be other things that you don't like. But it's a different proposition if you realise you're bonded to them for life.
Yeah.
And if you're just thinking, I'm stuck with Go until the end of my career, this is my life, day in, day out, you might get frustrated about things like, oh no, I don't have proper enums.
Yeah.
But if you do know another language, I think this releases some of that frustration, doesn't it? That you can sort of like, if you do Rust, you're like, hey, we've got all the enums. Lots of things wrong with Rust that are done better in Go and so forth, but that's perfectly okay because you can know two things. Let's celebrate that.
I'm wondering. I don't think that there is one language programmers these days. I would be extremely shocked to know that. To be frank, I think, and I don't have any numbers to back me up on that, but I think that people know at least one other language.
Oh, that's fair. But perhaps they don't get paid to write it.
No. Probably not. But yeah, probably not. But I think because it's easier to learn a new language these days with AI. This is a fact. You can just ask any AI. Can you translate that in X language, and it will do that for you. So you can still manage to write some code yourself, even though if you don't really know the language itself.
That's true. Desperately important to buy books as well, though.
Oh yeah, totally.
Let's not forget
John's
that.
book for sure.
Yeah, and courses. But yeah, so I think from a business point of view, you obviously don't want a team where everybody's using their own different cool language that nobody else knows and nobody can work on anybody else's code. That's obviously crazy. But equally, if you bet your entire business and everybody you hire is just a monoglot in that one language, that's the danger of another kind, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's in probably 80-90% of cases, it makes sense to just use Go. That's never bad advice, is it? It's a sensible default choice. There are some things where Go just isn't such a good fit, or you have to use it in a different way, or you need special experience to be able to make it work right. I'm thinking about things like games or other high performance applications, things like aerospace, anywhere correctness is critical, medical applications, this kind of thing. People actually die if you get stuff wrong. I wouldn't like people's lives to be depending on my Go programs. This would not be good. So this is really where Rust scores. And if you have that choice available, you can say, great, now we can choose the right thing for the right job. My way of phrasing it is Go is for low costs, Rust is for high stakes.
Interesting.
If you have those two choices, you're not doing badly, are you?
Yeah.
And then have something that you do on the weekends or in the evenings that you're like, nobody else in the world but me cares about this, but it's really fun and I want to learn it, so that's great. People should always keep doing that, shouldn't they?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, totally.
And as you say, the barriers are a lot lower now because instead of having to embarrassingly ask your coworker, what even is a pointer or something, you can ask AI and it won't judge you.
No, for now.
Maybe it is judging you, but it doesn't say so.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Interesting. So cool, John. I think we have covered a lot here. Is there anything that you want to, like a closing thought, maybe?
I think we covered everything in the entire world, didn't we?
Yeah, sure. Huh? We weren't that bad. We are not AI, but very close.
We almost left nothing for the next podcast.
Almost.
I'm sure you'll think of something.
I hope. All right. Thank you so much for returning to the podcast, and I encourage everyone to look at John's material. It's really great.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right.